Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Care Partner Summit Cumbre para Cuidadores through PD Health at Home. I'm Annie Wallace, Associate Director of Education at the Parkinson's Foundation, coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. The Parkinson's Foundation is dedicated to bringing the Parkinson's community virtual education and wellness programs through PD Health at Home. This month, as we offer the Care Partner Summit through PD Health at Home, we feature programs designed for family care partners of people with Parkinson's, but welcome those living with Parkinson's disease as well. Today, all participants will remain muted, but feel free to send any questions or comments you have through the chat. Before we dive in, I want to tell you guys just a little bit about who we are at the Parkinson's Foundation. Our mission is to make life better for people with Parkinson's disease by improving care and advancing research towards a cure. In everything we do, we build on the energy, experience, and passion of our global Parkinson's community. We have everything you need to live better with Parkinson's. I want to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors, Accorda Therapeutics and Acadia Pharmaceuticals, who have helped make the Care Partner Summit possible this year. And another special thanks to the Light of Day Foundation, who is a generous sponsor for PD Health at Home. I want to remind you that by participating today, you're registered to participate throughout the month of May. Next week, we conclude the Care Partner Summit Takeover. So be sure to join us for our final Mindfulness Monday with Maria Serrois. The session will be Mindful Resilience Part 4, Gratitude and Kindness. And on Wednesday, we'll have our session on sleep, cognition, and mood, a panel featuring Alex Vinanovec, Joe Quinn, and Martha Ann Tudor. While we eagerly await next week's summit, you can pass the time by visiting our virtual photo booth. We'll put the link in the chat where you can take or upload a photo and insert our branded Care Partner Summit overlay so that you can share it on social media and encourage any of your friends or family members who might be interested to join us as well. Feel free to tag the Parkinson's Foundation on all platforms at parkinson.org. Today, I am joined by some of the most knowledgeable experts out there, Parkinson's care partners. These 4 care partners we'll be hearing from today are part of our Care Partner Summit Planning Committee, who have helped design the program you've been participating in throughout the month. Today, we'll hear from the 4 of them, but also from care partners from around the country who we brought together a few months ago in pairs to have a discussion based on one of our Care to Talk cards developed in partnership with AARP to spark conversations about how being a Parkinson's family caregiver has affected you in key areas of your life and the ups and downs you've experienced. These cards are available free of charge in both English and Spanish, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about how you can get your own set at the end of the program. But for now, I would love to let our care partner panel introduce ourselves. So we'll start with Karen. Looks like you need to unmute yourself.
How's that? Am I in? Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to the Parkinson's Foundation Care Partner Summit, and thanks for having me, Annie. My husband, Al, and I have been married 25 years, and actually 8 of them have been under the specter of Parkinson's disease. We had a strong relationship before Parkinson's, which we believe helped us to weather its many storms. When someone you love is first diagnosed with Parkinson's, it can feel like a death sentence, but it's not. After the initial shock of diagnosis, you slowly learn to live with its presence. As a graduate student, I had the enormous privilege to study under Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Professor Kubler-Ross joined or coined the 7 stages of grief. Al and I went through all of them, although not necessarily in the same order. And it took us many years to go from the first to the last stage. I'm bringing it up because maybe they will be familiar to you as well. The first stage, and again, we've changed the phrases just a little bit, where for us, shock and denial, we were both in a state of disbelief and we were completely numb by it. The second was pain and guilt. I felt the pain, but my husband was convinced that he had done something to cause this, which of course he hadn't. Next was anger and bargaining. I was angry. He was angry, but I was the one that was negotiating with God constantly. We were both very upbeat people, but depression is something that I think everyone who is diagnosed with Parkinson's and their loved ones eventually feels. We now understand the meaning of better living through chemistry, and there's no shame to it. The upward turn was something that we began to understand as the disease progressed, and we met with more highly functioning people with Parkinson's disease, and we could really see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Parkinson's disease were affecting people, but the ones we met were able to live pretty normal lives after they had adjusted to the diagnosis. Those who had positive attitudes before Parkinson's were better able to adjust to the disease. Negative Nellies had a harder time. And I think that would be true of anything. Reconstruction and working through was our next phase. And without even realizing it, we were both slowly modifying our lives so that we could live better lives with the diagnosis. We challenged ourselves every day to stay active and social. And we still have to challenge ourselves to remain active and social because there is an inclination sometimes to withdraw. Acceptance and hope, this was really the last stage. It's where you want to be. There's no denying the disease, excuse me. Eventually you'll have to accept it, but with acceptance really does come hope. Research into better treatments and even a cure for Parkinson's disease advances every single day. If you keep up with the research, you'll feel that hope that we do. And as my husband always says, this is not a disease that you can keep secret for long. You wear it, but we have found that there is joy and laughter after Parkinson's. Now, I am not a cheesy or a hokey person, but for those of you old enough to remember the Captain and Tennille, love really does keep you together. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Karen. Next, I would love to hear from Dick.
Well, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. I'm delighted to be with you and be part of this Parkinson's panel with my esteemed colleagues, and they're getting to be good friends. I am Dick Howard, as I was introduced, and my beloved wife. Well, actually, I'm talking to you from Northwest Wisconsin. We're on about 55 acres of land, and it's kind of our nature bathing place, which becomes a real important part of the getting through Parkinson's disease as a care partner for both of us. So if you hear birds chirping in the back, I'm not doing imitation voices, it's actual real birds. So my beloved partner, Chris, she's a lawyer, an artist, a master gardener, volunteer in elder care, and truly my soulmate as a care partner. She's had Parkinson's disease for probably 7 or 8 years, diagnosed probably about 6 years ago. She's doing well. So we're early in our stage, but I can see the progression of this disease even in that early stage. It's showing up more lately in sleeplessness, fatigue. Well, emotional swings they happen on occasion, but they do happen, probably for both of us, I think, as Karen was talking about. I've been a healthcare executive for 34 years and I have my own consulting business in that arena. And I'm used to being able to pull the levers and make things happen and fix things and make it better for people. But there's no fix for Chris. This is probably the hardest thing I face. There's nothing I can do. And that's maybe a bit of a male trait, is to try to fix things, but it's something I just have to accept. And so I'm really hungry for knowledge. And sometimes I feel a bit helpless in what I can do, because this is a progressive disease. I accept that I can't stop it, but when you're with someone you love, it breaks your heart that that's going on, but you are there because you are a care partner. You're a partner and a soulmate, basically. So I'm determined to be there for Chris. The Parkinson's Disease Foundation has just given me such a good base for learning, and not only the learning about the disease and medications and the progression, but being able to be with people like the folks that are on this panel, hearing from them what their experiences are. I learned so much from that. So I'm deeply grateful and thankful, particularly to Annie and her staff, for all they do for us and our ability to be able to have this time with you. Probably in just by summarize, my biggest concern right now is just our physical environment. We're in a 4-story house built in 1918. We love the house. We've completely remodeled it. And my wife, as I said, is a retired master gardener. So we've got beautiful gardens, and that's her life. That's really important to her. So the thought of having to change venues at some point is really, really hard to think about right now. So that's probably one of our biggest challenges. But we know we must prepare for it. And that's just part of, I think, the watchword for all of us is preparing for what's coming next and being very aware and being very present. I think I'll talk more about this later, but as I mentioned, soulmate, I would say that the most important thing for us is our spiritual bond. We are both active people. I'm very socially active, but also contemplative, and that's time that we spend together is in prayer and reflection about what life's bringing to us, and I think that will carry us through all the things that come forward. So again, I'm very grateful to the foundation and to all of you, and delighted to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Marlene, why don't you introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Marlene Perdan, and I am also very honored to be here speaking to you today. My journey with Parkinson's began in 2009 when my husband, Bill, was diagnosed at the age of 51. We've been married for over 40 years now. It was much younger than we expected anything like that to happen. And he also had to stop working about 6 years ago, and that was at the age of 56. And so that was much earlier too. Since that time, his father was diagnosed with Parkinson's and since has passed away with complications. We have other family members, and just a few weeks ago, my sister was diagnosed with Parkinson's as well. So I'm learning how to be a caregiver in all different kind of ways. I'm learning how to be a caregiver to a spouse, we had to be caregiver to my father-in-law and help my mother-in-law, and also now siblings and cousins. And so we're learning a lot, and the Parkinson's Foundation has been so helpful with that. The Zooms, the online programs, all of the information, the books, that's the first place we go. So we're very grateful for all of that. In addition to being on this Care Partner Summit, this is the first time I've done this. My husband and I have been really active with the Moving Day in Cleveland for the last 5 years. And we're excited to do that again in June, to have a team and to be there. One of the things, in addition to helping raise money, because we're all looking for more information, but I really want to help raise awareness. I found that, people will say to us things like, oh, I didn't know that, sleep problems was part of Parkinson's, or I didn't know this was a part of Parkinson's. And everyone just thinks it's, the shaking and the tremor. And so helping our family and friends to understand about that is what I really want to do, promote awareness about all the different facets of Parkinson's, because then they can better help you and, understand your journey a little bit better. And I think that just helps us all out a lot. So I'm really grateful to be here today, and thank you.
Thanks, Marlene. And finally, Tom, will you introduce yourself? Uh-oh, we got to unmute you.
I thought about that a bunch. Hi, my name is Tom Manick. I live in the Chicago metropolitan area with my wife, Ro. It's short for Rosemary. We're lucky in that there are 2 centers of excellence here in the area, so people with Parkinson's have the opportunity to get really good quality care. My wife was diagnosed in 1990 at age 36. Her first symptom was small handwriting. We've been married for 46 years and she's had PD for 31, so we've been dealing with this for a long time. Some of the other panelists have really talked about the beginning of their journey. I can't remember it, it was so long ago. She stopped working in 2006 and had DBS surgery in 2014, and there were serious complications. So we had to deal with that. And then recently in December of 2019, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease dementia. She is what I call a very complex person with Parkinson's disease. My wife needs care 24/7, and that includes help with her activities of daily living, and I'm her full-time care partner. She gets medications every waking hour, so getting me time is tough. We don't have any kids and we don't have any family area, so it's really a struggle, like many of you have, in dealing with how do you help and care for your loved one. And the other thing is, and this kind of ties into maybe what Karen said, that no one really knows what we are going through. How do you answer the question, how's Ro? Like Dick said, it's a progressive neurological disease and it continues to progress. But some of my new best friends are other care partners who are going through some of the same things as I am. So I want to shout out to Claire, because we talk and text and email regularly. But I just want to say that Ro is a fighter and my love. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Tom, and to all of you. Now that we've met our panelists, we're ready to watch our first video. Now, before we start it, I want to tell you who we're going to see. You're going to hear from Maria and Angela on the topic of diagnosis and planning for a new reality. After we watch this discussion together, we'll check back in with our panel. Angela is a former care partner for her husband, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease with a later diagnosis of MSA, which is a form of Parkinsonism. She's a multi-care partner as her son is on the autism spectrum and her mother had Alzheimer's disease. Maria is a retired educator whose husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's just last year. She loves to travel, visiting her children and 2 granddaughters that are spread out throughout the world when travel is possible, of course. She's bilingual and her husband primarily speaks Spanish. I know you're going to love them both.
When we learned that my husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, I received a big shock because all the plans that we had for the future became blurry to me, meaning that as a caregiver, everything that was in place for the future was not possible anymore, because Parkinson's develops so many different things that we don't know. So the future for us, especially for me as a caregiver who is healthy, a very blurry future.
When we got the diagnosis for my husband and his Parkinson's, the thing that I wanted to get done was to make sure that we had all of our legal affairs in order. Of course, my husband, he was, we have time, we don't have to do this today. But you're not doing that for the person with Parkinson's, you're doing that for the care partner so that it's one less thing that they have to worry about in the future. So making sure that you have power of attorney in place, making sure you have a will in place, making sure that you know what bills need to be paid at what time of the month and how those are currently being paid. All of those types of things were things that became very important for me as far as things that I wanted to make sure that we had in place when we got that diagnosis. And it wasn't something that we did on day one, but it was things that we needed to make sure that we were both on the same page about.
Yeah, well, the first thing that came to me was the need of us getting informed. So by reading a lot about Parkinson's, we were able to start, and the Parkinson's Foundation was very good at providing us with the necessary resources to start reading about it. And then I was reading for myself, but when talking to my husband or reading to him, I had to translate. So the interpretation of every single subject that I came across was also a burden for me, because not knowing that there were already resources published in Spanish made me take all that load on my shoulders. I turned out to my own children for support. I turned out to counseling for support because it was at that point too much for me.
Yeah, I think that's very good, Maria. I do think it's good to read and find resources. we were lucky here that we have a really good and really active Parkinson's program here locally. And they were a big help with helping us get information, but also just providing support both for myself and for my husband. We attended the young onset group, and many of the spouses of the person with Parkinson's or the care partners attend the meeting also, because it's good for us to hear, one, that we're not the only one experiencing whatever our person with Parkinson's is going through. And so I think also trying to find that connection locally. I realize right now with COVID that's a little bit more tricky, but as things start opening back up, reaching out and seeing if you have a local support group for people with Parkinson's I would encourage everybody to do that.
Marlene, I would love to check in with you first. When you look back on Bill's diagnosis, what's something tangible you wish you would have taken care of early, similar to what Angela shared about taking care of her husband's legal affairs?
For me, I agree with going into looking in things like finances. One of the things that when Bill was diagnosed, we were so scared that he wasn't going to be able to work because we were both working, but he was the one who was making more of the money, as I spent a lot of time taking care of the kids. Then I went back to work. And so we were so scared that he wasn't going to be able to work. And we just held on by our fingernails and sort of put our head in the sand. I wish I would have earlier sat down with financial planners or whoever and had looked at things like, what would it look like if Bill had to go on disability? Or what would it look like if Bill can only work 1 more year or 2 more years or 3 more years? And we did that eventually. And I wish we would have did it much sooner, because I think it would have been less scary and it would have given me a lot more information to plan for the future. So I wish we would have done that sooner. The other things I would say that I'm learning how to do now are the more practical, everyday things. Like I think I shared with you before that the panel before that the first time I had to turn the water off in the house, I ran around like crazy and Bill couldn't remember. He since has started some cognitive issues. And so he just looked at me and we're turning every valve. So I'm trying really hard when new things come in that I know every password, every trying to learn all these things in the house that I never had to do before. Bill was car, house, I was food, shopping. And so now, unfortunately, you really do have to be part of all that. But the more you know, the less scary it is. And then when something happens or you think it might happen, you're like, no, I know how to do that. I got it. So not that I know everything, but it's the more you know, and write it down and just don't wait. If you think you should find out about it, find out about it. That has made it a lot easier.
Yeah, those role changes can be really difficult to navigate. The other question I've got for you, Marlene, and then we'll go on to our next video. What are some resources, whether they're focused on education or support, that you and Bill or any of the other members of your family who are dealing with Parkinson's in one way or another have found to be helpful that you'd like to share with the care partners joining us today?
Well, for sure, the Parkinson's Foundation, all of the information that you guys offer, like the books, these online meetings have been wonderful, all this information. I think for us too, when we were able to get together, and hopefully we will again, like we did the Parkinson's 101 and the different things like that are offered through the foundation and through other Parkinson's organizations. Support groups, for sure. We did join a support group, and through the more you get to know people, we actually have an informal like walking group that we've met just from meeting different people at different things. I think those have been really helpful for us, just getting to meet people and searching out whatever programs are in your area. I think those have been really, really helpful for us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marlene. Next, we're going to hear from Derek and Camille on the subject of adjusting expectations. Camille's husband, Kurt, was 45 when he was diagnosed. She shared that being a young couple dealing with a chronic and progressive disease was really challenging on their marriage. Now, as a support group leader, she's made it her mission to help educate those living with Parkinson's disease and those who love someone who lives with Parkinson's. And you'll hear her doing just that in her conversation with Derek. Derek's wife, Samantha, was diagnosed about 10 years ago when she was just 20 years old. He has served as her care partner since they started living together in 2014. So we will go ahead and hear from them now. Uh-oh, I don't have sound. Panelists, are you also not hearing the sound? I'm looking at your faces. Okay. We'll reshare screen and hopefully fix that. Thanks for your patience, guys.
We have, we had the very beginning of our marriage where everything was, quote, normal, no Parkinson's, no nothing, starting to raise 2 kids. And then Parkinson's entered our life. And as the years went by, things have changed because of that. It's just helping them through this and knowing that things you are going to possibly have to change with some of your thoughts with things. I'm a very ABC 1, 2, 3, let's go. This is what we're supposed to do at this time, da, 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 da. And he has said many times, things are changed now. Just because we're supposed to be there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't mean that we're going to get there at 2 o'clock, because maybe I needed to take a nap so that we can get there and be able to enjoy the afternoon or the evening. For instance, our son got married, and I was already worrying and wondering, how is this going to work? Because there's going to be a dance at night, and how is he going to how is he going to be able to stay up for that? When is he going to get a nap if you start the day already at 11 o'clock in the morning taking pictures and having a little bite to eat, and then the ceremony, and you know how weddings are, they're such a long day. And he did have to take a nap. And quite frankly, I almost had, well, I did until we decided that we wouldn't do it, but I had a camper reserved, and that I was going to bring it to the parking lot where the event was at. And if he needed to go out at, say, 6 o'clock or something and go just decompress, take a nap, and come back at 7:30 or 8 o'clock so he could keep going through the rest of the evening, I was prepared and planned to do that. So those are the kinds of things that you have to start becoming creative with, and you have to understand that they're not able to do like what maybe they used to do or what you want them to do.
Obviously, you guys were later in the stage of your life when he was diagnosed and everything. For us, it's it is what it is now. So I mean, it's planning around and doing things around what it is. I mean, you mentioned it. You have 2 children. We probably won't be able to have children just because it's hard enough right now taking care of ourselves, let alone having a child at this point in time. We got our dog, so she's good to take care of. But as far as having children, it would be hard.
You are starting at a totally different spectrum of where we started at. This is the life of what you know right now. Like you said, even with sleeping, you don't know any different. This is what it's been. I've experienced what it was and what it is now. And I miss what it was, but I have to learn and go with what we have and be do I want to say thankful and blessed of what we still got going, So yeah, you're in a different spot, and your decisions and what's going to happen with your life are different.
So Tom, I'd love to check in with you next. I'm wondering if you can share a little about how you and Ro made some of the big, heavy decisions that affected your future at different points along her journey and your journey as her Parkinson's disease progressed.
I think the biggest one we made, this kind of relates back to what Dick said and his wonderful place that he has now where he is up in Wisconsin. We moved from a 2-story house that we both loved. We made major renovations to it. We got it just the way we wanted to. And we moved to a 1-level condo. This is in 2002. We moved a whole half of a mile. So it wasn't very far, but it really changed our life. We talked a lot about the move before and what it would change for us. Ro realized that things would be changing. We needed to think about the future and her and our needs. Although she was still working at the time, she could walk to the train station here to take the train to downtown Chicago to work. All we were doing was living in a different place, still in the same community, but a little bit different setting. So we were enjoying the living in the condo. When she was recovering from the surgical complications, I realized that she was going to need a wheelchair full time. And luckily we were in a 1-level condominium, but it had wall-to-wall carpeting, just like most homes have. And I had all of that removed, and we put in manufactured hardwood, which was the same thickness as the kitchen and bathroom floor tiles. So there is not a bump anywhere when I get her around now, when I help her go from the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen to the living room. But even when she was in the hospital, I took color samples of all the flooring for her to help so she could pick it out. Not one of my strengths. If she wanted this particular color flooring, she was going to get it. So that was the important thing. Moving to the condo was a tough decision, and it's had a major impact on our life, but it was a really positive impact on our life. It's made things much, much easier. And the thing that you need to really remember is that your home is where you place your butt every night, and it changes over a lifetime. We lived in a lot of places over all these years of being married, and so it just has to be where you are now, and that's your home, and you have to treat it as your home. The memories are in your head. They're not physical places or things, and that's the hardest thing to deal with, is that we still talk about our old house. We still talk about the dogs that we had there. But where we live now, on the 4th floor of this 5-story condominium in the big town of Glen Ellen, Illinois, that no one has ever heard of, this is our home. And this is where everybody knows us now. So it was a tough decision, but we made it at the right time, and it's turned out really, really well.
Tom, what have you done to manage the grief of losing the way of life you had envisioned before Parkinson's?
I'm a crier. My favorite movie is White Christmas, and I've seen it a lot over the years because we watch it every Christmas. I know the ending, and I still cry. But I've been to support groups, and I've tried many of them. I was really disappointed in the first ones I went to. I was an outlier. With taking care of my wife or having Parkinson's at age 36, I was sitting in a group with people who were, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And I spent time advising people. I dropped out. But the pandemic opened up some new options. It's the one thing I'll say has worked out well, a benefit of the pandemic. I'm not stuck going to a support group at the hospital that's 4 miles away. I found a Zoom care partner support group, and there was a fit. There were multiple care partners whose loved ones was in the same place in that Parkinson's disease continuum. We have a lot to talk about and share. One situation was the social worker came into the meeting 5-10 minutes late, and she didn't talk for 20 more minutes because the 3 of us that were on the call were talking about the things that were important and what was going on. So we have some things that way. But I also found a care partner support group in Denver, and it was not just for Parkinson's disease, it's for neuro patient care partners. And again, common situations. So it's a good place to be. So if one doesn't fit, try another one. You can find them real easily. But what I say is, if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't help you, keep looking. I'm not one to talk to people generally. to look for a psychiatrist or a psychologist or social worker. So keep looking. Don't give up the fight to find the right group. It's real important.
Thanks so much, Tom. Our next video will feature Lori and Molly on the subjects of cognition, counseling, and processing. Lori's husband, Bob, was diagnosed in his 40s, just 6 months after they were married, and he's had the disease now for over 20 years. She says they've been through every procedure out there to help him, and we'll hear about how their family has learned to stay positive despite many challenges and setbacks. Molly has a 31-year-old son who was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 25. She's concerned about his, as well as his wife's, mental well-being as they progress through the journey.
With this disease, we have gone from, my husband was 45 when he was diagnosed, but had the disease as early as 35 years old is what we can go back to with the symptoms. And so we have gone through the full gambit of, slight, symptoms of Parkinson's disease, all the way up to now we're at the very advanced Parkinson's symptoms with this, and how we have dealt with the changes with his cognitive abilities. We immediately, as soon as he got the diagnosis, we started with a new counselor, and that has been a godsend. We were just newly married, only 6 months when my husband was diagnosed. And so we were still trying to figure out how to become a couple and a family, a blended family. And this counselor has been with us for the past 17 years. She has helped us through the grieving process of learning of this disease and then how to handle it, and has made our life so full because we embraced the changes. Yes, we go through down periods as new symptoms come up, but we always seem to focus on what is all of the things that you can do. And when he started to get dementia, we had first started with the cognitive, deficits, about 10 years ago. And it has slowly progressed now where he has dementia, and we have a lot of difficulties. He was able to multitask, 10 things at a time. His job was very high stress and high pressure. And now if he can multitask 2 items at a time, we're lucky. That's a good day. And he was so technically inclined, and he now has a lot of difficulty with technology. So we just take each step of the changes that have occurred with his cognition, and embrace the positive things that are still going on with him. And, we address the issues. We get the specialists that we need. We get the medication that we need in order to make his life as full as possible. But without our counselor, I don't feel that we would have been as positive and healthy as we are at this stage of the game. It really saved us as a whole family.
That's awesome. When we first found out my son had Parkinson's, the way I process something this huge is I internalize. I shut down and I internalize. And I get grief-stricken. Is this something I have created? And I think that it's probably normal for everyone to want to try and fix everything if you can. And did you cause something? With Parkinson's, there's no way that anyone could have caused it. But my son asked how I was processing it, and that really struck me. He asked my husband, how's mom processing this? And I realized I just internalized everything. With Parkinson's, as with any huge life-changing disease, I think it's important to keep clear and strong communication lines open. And that's something we're learning to do, learning more each day. And I am thankful that for my family circle, for my circle of friends, and for the Parkinson's Foundation, because I couldn't fix my son. I reached out to the Parkinson's Foundation and said, how can I help? And it struck me last night as I was thinking about this video. This is how I am fixing it for him in my own self. This is the only thing I can do. So I will put both feet in and help when and as needed as much as possible.
Karen, I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about what it looked like for you when Al was diagnosed.
Our situation was probably a little bit different. I owned a medical market research firm, and one of my clients was a medical device manufacturer who was very active in the Parkinson's community. They actually created devices for Parkinson's patients. So I diagnosed my husband. He walked into my office one day doing the coin, the coin thing with his fingers. That was the first alarming thing that I noticed. And then I asked him to walk away from me, and I could see that only one arm was swinging. The other side was pretty still. So I immediately had a sinking feeling because I knew that Al had Parkinson's, but I wasn't going to tell him until an actual doctor confirmed it. And when that happened, I think I was a little bit more prepared to help him through it. But it was also maybe more frightening to me because I had more information. What we ended up doing was we are very active in our community, which is a Jewish community. And Ashkenazi Jews have 10% of all Ashkenazi Jews get Parkinson's, which is much, much higher than the general population. So for us, it was very, very frightening. We weren't ready to share this with our friends or even our family. So we kept it to ourselves for a full year, during which time we had a chance to get our minds and our hearts around where we were right now and where this was likely to go. And in retrospect, that might not have been the best thing for us to do. When we did, after a year, feel comfortable sharing this, it was such a relief. Our friends and our family were incredibly encouraging and supportive. And what we found out that was incredibly ironic is that several of our very good friends had Parkinson's. And when we told them we had it, it gave them the courage to come out and also tell people. So again, our situation was very, very different. I guess that the moral to our story is when you're processing this, try not to keep it inside and just between the two of you, but allow yourself, the luxury of being able to talk to friends and family.
How have cognitive changes and cognitive challenges looked in your experience? How have you seen those come up? What have you, how have you seen it affect your relationship, and how have you adapted to meet these changes?
I thought about this question, and I've actually changed my answer because I thought I really needed to be far more honest. So the one thing is that Al's Al has slowed down a great deal, and his sleep pattern is terrible. And many times I feel like I'm living with Rip Van Winkle. I'm very angry about it, very resentful. It's, you know, I just want to yell at him. You're sleeping all the time. You are sleeping your life away. And I've developed this, this other life, you know, without him, that involves being with my friends and doing all the things that we love to do. And then when we get together with couples, I really have to drag him out to be more active. So the sleep, the cognitive issue of sleeping has been a major, major problem. And I don't see that getting better. The other thing that I've noticed is, and this is really, you know, hard to come to grasp with, is that he is a working CPA. And he has gotten much, much slower in his responses to his clients. So I become the backup person. I am now the person that if they can't reach Al, if he's sleeping and can't return their calls, I jump in and take over. If I didn't invoice the clients, we would not get paid. So I think that there are different parts of your brain. His brain is able to do all the mathematical stuff, remember tax law. And in fact, one of the things that he does all night is talk all night when he's sound asleep about all things taxious, CPA-ish, and has whole conversations, you know, all night long. So this has been a struggle for us, a real struggle. And I just know that it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And I think I'll rely on the Parkinson's Foundation, which I've done pretty much all along, to help me get through it.
Thanks, Karen. I know we're seeing comments in the chat saying, you know, thanks for being so honest. I feel the same way. I have that same feeling. So remember, Karen and all of you listening, you're not alone when you have those really, really challenging feelings, those feelings that maybe you're not so proud of. Caregiving is hard. Parkinson's is ugly, especially as it progresses. So remember to show yourself the same grace that you would show to a friend who is dealing with what you're dealing with. For our last video today, we're going to hear from Bernard and Terri on the subject of relationships and routines. Terri and her husband, Don, have been on the Parkinson's caregiving journey since 2005. Through the twists and turns, she says that while it's been difficult, heartbreaking, crazy, startling, and challenging, they have never wavered in their love for each other, and that she's prepared to continue to the next phase. Bernard is an executive with 51 years of experience in management consulting, high technology, and entrepreneurial ventures. He serves as a care partner to his wife, Denise, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2018. So we'll go ahead with that video now.
To this question, Bernard, how does your emotional state affect Denise's emotional state?
That's interesting. So one of the things I want to, I'll say here, and I'd like your answer to this too. So, because you've mentioned you and your husband, you know, have a great relationship. What I've learned is I talk to lots of couples in this, is that, you know, whatever relationship you had going into this is still there. So a great part of our relationship is what we worked out already. We've been together almost 50 years in July. We'd already worked through a lot of things and figured out what works. And so that just sort of carried forward with Parkinson's being the latest challenge. Not you know, it's not like it started with Parkinson's. It was like, this is just the latest one, okay? And so that's how I approach it. Okay, one more log on the fire. Let's go.
Well, for me, I may not realize that I'm emotionally stressed or whatnot, and he'll say, "Okay, it's time for you to stop beating me up." And you know, that'll shake me and like, "Okay, Terri, it might be time for you to go sit out on the front porch or on the deck or something and sing a couple of songs or some kumbaya with you and Jesus to get yourself back in the same place." That's the only reason I asked.
Well, no, you know, that's a good point, because one of the things I will say that we have improved on, this relationship stuff we can always improve on, is giving each other way more space than we used to have. the care partner role, when you add Parkinson's on top of it, gets to be pretty heavy. You know, I'm preaching to the choir here. It gets to be pretty heavy. And so, you know, it can become all consuming if you allow it. So having listened to other couples talk, I made a conscious effort and actually sat down and put together like a daily schedule template and then showed it to my wife. And I said, here's the deal. I got to cook, I got to clean, I got things to do for the job, you know, time I want myself. Here's the exercise time. This is my schedule. Will that work? And of course, the answer had to be yes, because that was the schedule that I was going to. But that helped, because what that did was, instead of sort of randomness as we go through the day and you know, bouncing off each other, I mean, she pretty much knew that I was going to try to squeeze in, talk to family, talk to friends, exercise, fitness, etc. You know, between this block of time of the day and then work, and then her, and then get the meals and so forth. So what that did was kind of gave us a new rhythm, but a rhythm that we could pretty much count on. And so, you know, if I'm a little short or she's a little short, it's probably because we've gone outside of the schedule. And then that helps us, right? Okay, wait. That was her meditation time. I wasn't supposed to interrupt, or that's his time, and I'm not supposed to interrupt. And that really helped. That really, so it's sort of like putting boundaries on our time during the day, and that's helped us in our interaction to give each other space to cope and to work through some of the things that we do, and know when we're going to have time together, like at dinners and things like that.
Okay. I think for me, I adjusted with this pandemic my working hours. I worked from 7 to 4, and now I work from 4:30 to 2.
Oh, interesting.
So by the time he gets up in the morning, I've had a couple of hours in to get some of my work stuff in, and you know, then I can dash away and fix breakfast, and, you know, maybe sit down and chitter chatter 15-20 minutes with him while he eats breakfast, and then go back to work. And then I kind of check in every 30 minutes, you know, kind of go to the back of the house about every 30 minutes to check in while I'm working. And then it's kind of like, he's kind of like the little puppy. He knows when 2 o'clock comes, and he knows it's time to sign off. So he came up here earlier and he said, well, if you got any errands to run today, I can be your sidekick. And I said, well, I've got the Parkinson's thing at 3 o'clock. I said, and that's supposed to be 3 to 5. I said, maybe after 5 we can go, and I do have, you know, FedEx and post office stuff to drop off. I said, so maybe after that you can be my sidekick.
All right. So Dick, I want to check in with you on this final video. How do you maintain your own social and emotional health?
I just wanted to comment on the video. I'm like Bernard, I like to have things scheduled, you know, and plan things out in the day, but it doesn't always work that way. And so just a little bit of initial wisdom here. I'm rereading the book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which is just a powerful book of a Jewish man in a concentration camp. It's a powerful book, but he says, wisdom is the gap between a stimulus and your reaction. So in those instances where I've got my day planned out, you know, so the difference between the gap between stimulus and reaction, wisdom is taking the time to think through what you're going to do. So when I'm in those modes of got to get things done, and she's tired, you know, we've talked about this, so she's tired, she can't do things, or I want to do something social and she can't, I just have to stop and say, that's where it is. So what can I do to take care of myself right now? And she's okay with that. So for me, I'd say my social and emotional health are divided into kind of 2 categories. One is a highly active person, physically active. This 50 acres I'm sitting on here, I manage that as a registered forester. Right outside here is 1,200 plants that have to go in for native planting. So taking care of the environment, being active, cycling, skiing, all the things I love to do, allow me to kind of nature bathe and take care of my own physical and emotional health. And it's actually an outlet. On the other hand, there's the other category is just contemplative time, which you know, really being aware of yourself and others and being present to others. And so I have to slow down and stop. And then that wisdom gap, really pay attention to Chris, our friends and others. And for me, also just connection with people. We have a very close family. We do a lot of things together socially. So yes, while that's with Chris, it's also something that's still part of our fabric of taking care of myself and also taking care of her. But I am very intentional about solitary time and being understanding myself and where I'm at and being present to others, and also being very active and kind of getting my emotions out. And like Tom, I do my crying in the shower. I mean, honestly, she doesn't need to see that. Not that I have to be all upbeat and emotions. We all have those emotions. We talk about those, but I try to stay as positive with her as possible. And that does get to be hard sometimes, but it all works. All those things is part of life. So.
Thank you, Dick. Well, we're closing in on the end of the hour. I want to take a minute to ask one more question, open it up to the four of you to jump in if you have something you'd like to add. Don't feel like you have to say something. But I'm wondering if, based on the videos we've watched and the discussion we've had, if there are any new lessons or any new strategies that you're hoping to try to implement after we close today.
If I could comment, I think it's Marlene talked about it too, is, we have a financial planner. We're very thoughtful about that. But I think, being more intentional about what, like Tom said, when you have to make that move from the house, maybe like you do in your financial planning, you do financial scenarios or things, you have to kind of plan out ahead of time. So when you're faced with it, it doesn't become a shock. You've already sort of thought through. And that's something I want to continue to do so we don't fall in the denial trap.
Yeah, I think for us, along with that, one of the things, I was just thinking about it, listening to y'all, the like changes. We moved to a condo too, but I'm thinking about like, we're feeling very gypped for a while because vacations and trips were really hard. They just got harder. But so we're trying to plan more manageable things and not try to feel gypped about it, but do things that we really think would be fun and interesting, but know that we have to make some changes. And, just like Tom said, with the condo, a lot of good things come out of it. Sometimes these easier, shorter trips that we do, actually, we have more fun. They're not as maybe adventuresome, but they're still good. So that's what we're looking at.
I feel that we are way, way behind where everybody else appears to be. Can you hear me? Am I muted?
Nope, we can hear you, Karen.
Okay, good. I had no idea. I know once before I was muted. I'm proud of myself because I went to Tom this year. My husband has always been the finance guy, and we had none of our legal documents updated. Our wills needed to be done, our power of attorney, our medical power of attorney, everything. And I had just put it off for years. And so I called Tom because I knew how well organized he was. And he actually sent me a list of all the things we would need and where we could get the forms. And it was a huge weight off my shoulder, just enormous. What I might do going forward is take a page from Dick's book, which is that between my husband who has Parkinson's, my mother who has advanced dementia, my 5 grandchildren who always seem to need me, they're little ones, I don't take enough time for just myself. And so I really think that I need to, get some meditation time, do my own thing. So I'm fresher to deal with all these problems.
One thing I'd like to add, and I appreciate the comments, Karen, is that, like I said in the introduction, we don't have any kids or family nearby. So my biggest concern is what happens to Ro if something happens to me. So besides all the legal documents, the financial planning, I had to go out to find a care management company that will take over that responsibility to take care of Ro. And I spent a lot of time researching the various ones in this area so that they will have her best interests at heart if something happens to me and she needs care, whether it's care in our home, care in another facility, whatever it is. So if you're in this similar situation to me, think about that piece of it too. I know it's not the thing you want to think about, but you want to do the best that you can for your loved one.
I want to say thank you to the four of you for being so real and honest and talking about the hard stuff as well as the triumphs. I know I've seen in the chat, and I know we don't do this enough. So I really appreciate it. And I want to extend that same thanks to the care partners who were featured in the Care to Talk discussion videos. Those of you watching, if you want to see more of those videos, they will be sprinkled throughout the Parkinson's Foundation Care Partner Program, Building a Care Partnership, which will launch on June 1st. It's really going to offer a series of online courses that will grow and evolve indefinitely, offering more ways for care partners to learn, grow, and connect with one another. You can expect more information about getting registered for that program next week as we close out the 2021 Care Partner Summit. I want to once again thank our sponsors, Acadia Pharmaceuticals, Accorda Therapeutics, and the Light of Day Foundation, and want to remind you all to go order your copy of the Care to Talk cards put together in collaboration with AARP that we used for those discussion videos. You can do that at parkinson.org/care-to-talk. And finally, thank you to all of you who have joined us live today or who are watching after the fact. Everything we do at the Parkinson's Foundation is for the Parkinson's community. Those living with Parkinson's, those caring for a loved one with Parkinson's, and the Parkinson's care team who care for your loved one's physical and mental health needs. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Please feel free to reach out if you need anything from us. The helpline is the place to go if you have questions, because if they don't have the answer, they know how to get the answer. We look forward to seeing you all next week, and please remember to take care of yourselves and don't be afraid to face some of those hard feelings that come along with caregiving. You all are doing a wonderful job, and your loved ones with Parkinson's are lucky to have you. Don't forget that. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks, Annie.